I'm Cherylanne Skolnicki, and this is Brilliant Balance, the show for working women who are ready to shine. Each week, I bring you ideas, inspiration, and insight on balance, business, and getting it all done gracefully. You ready? Let's be brilliant. This is episode 337 of the Brilliant Balance podcast. Are you stuck in a Goldilocks job? So before we get too far into this episode, I want to take a second to define what do I mean by a Goldilocks job. And this is a term that I coined a while back. I think it was like 2021, to talk about a job that's not too bad and it's not too good, right? But it's certainly not just right. And we started calling these Goldilocks jobs because what I heard women saying over and over again about these jobs was that while it certainly was not perfect, they couldn't leave that role, right? Because something about it was like just good enough for them to stay. In other words, they'd sort of gotten comfortable in a job that was like warm porridge. And the comfort of particular attributes of the job, maybe the compensation, maybe the benefits plan, maybe the flexibility or the location of it, was like just enough to keep them in that job, even though they knew that there was something else for them that they felt like they were called to do or really, sort of magnetically pulled toward doing. So if that is you, and if you resonate with that idea of being in what I'm calling a Goldilocks job, today's episode really is for you. Now, I'm doing something a little bit different in this episode. I am going to share with you the audio content from a live class that I taught back in 2021 when I coined this term. So what you're going to hear is a little bit of the setup for that class. You're going to hear me interacting with people over chat. I did this in a video format, so there could be some hand gestures that aren't going to translate through to you exactly perfectly in this audio format. But I want you to have in your mind that this was a class designed for women who identified with this statement of being in a Goldilocks job. And I really think this concept holds up. In fact, I've been hearing about it a lot lately in the initial conversations that I have with women who are interested in exploring coaching. I've heard this coming up again inside of our coaching community of existing clients. And so it felt like a really good time to put this back in front of you, especially if you discovered the Brilliant Balance podcast at some point since this would have happened, right? In the last few years. So again, I'm going to air this piece of audio for you. It runs about the same duration as a typical podcast. And you're going to hear me at the end of this, because that's what I was doing in the live class, invite you to schedule a call with me if you are interested in talking through the situation you find yourself in professionally and seeing if there is some perspective that I can offer to you through coaching that might help you get to a better place. So that offer stands today, even though this episode or this particular piece of content was recorded a while back. And I'll come back on at the very end of the episode and just remind you of that and make sure that you have the link that you can go to schedule time if you choose to do that. So here it is. Are you stuck in a Goldilocks job? If you are here today, if you are anything like me, I know that you want to do work that you love. Okay, I'm going to make really good use of the chat today. I want you to tell me in the chat some answers to some of these questions. So tell me if you're here because you want to be doing work that you love, right? And in order to do that, in order to have that kind of work, you're going to need to understand your gifts and your talents and find a way to use them in service to others in a way that really fits kind of neatly into the rest of your life, right? And what I mean by that is I want you to be able to use your gifts and talents, but not be, working 80 hours a week. I want you to be able to have that work and have it fit into the rest of your life really neatly. The problem is, there's a couple of problems. One, you might not be really sure what your gifts and talents are or how to use them, or sure that it's even possible to do that. And still, here's always the key, make a living, right? Make enough money. Because don't we just think trade-offs are par for the course, right? Don't we just think like, well, you can't have everything. So if you want to do work that you love, then maybe you have to trade off somewhere else. Isn't it normal to just settle? I think that's become a really dominant way of thinking, but not around here. Not around here. At Brilliant Balance, we really think that you deserve to have someone in your corner, someone who knows where you are and knows how to help you find a way to do meaningful work and still make a living doing it, right? So listen, I'm a former corporate ladder climber, right? I know how it feels to wonder if there is something more out there. If you could do different work or better work or work that feels more meaningful to you without putting your family at risk. I wondered about that for a really long time. But when I took the leap, I learned that there is something more, and it's so worth it. For me, that leap was to entrepreneurship. For hundreds of women who I've coached, it's been to other corporate jobs or employer-driven jobs where they just got to settle in and use their gifts in a way that was more authentic to them. So hundreds of women have now gotten out of Goldilocks jobs and into dream jobs. And today it's your turn. Today it's really your turn. So let's talk about today. When you woke up today, welcome to those of you just popping in. Tell me where in the world you are. As you get here, just drop it in the chat so we can all see where this crew is calling in from. So when you woke up today, I want to know how you felt about starting your workday, right? What was your emotional state like when you woke up today and it was time to start your work? Type that in the chat. Tell me how did you feel when it was time to start work today? And in the meantime, I'm going to tell you how I felt today. Okay. So I woke up today and I felt jazzed. Honestly, that's probably the first word that comes to my mind. I felt energized. I felt enthusiastic. I felt creative. I was fired up. One, because I got to do this today, which is probably one of my favorite things to do. But I had other things on my calendar today that were genuinely engaging to me. Right? Genuinely engaging. Like what I was about to do would matter to someone, right? That genuinely what I was going to do was going to go make a difference in the world, make a dent in the universe. And that I was also going to be able to fit it into the rest of my life. So I am so grateful that I could wake up today and get in a workout. We have a new home gym. I'm calling it the wellness studio so I can stay in the right headspace. Got some thinking time in with my coffee, which is my favorite part of the morning, honestly. And I had the chance to be creative while collaborating with an absolutely brilliant team at Brilliant Balance. Because for way too long, I just didn't think that was possible, right? I just didn't think it was possible. I thought the price would be too high to get this life. So I was running myself ragged, right? To get all the spoils of my corporate job. I was really comfortable in a very cushy corporate job. It was prestigious. It was lucrative. It was secure. I mean, what I would say to myself is, why would anyone leave? Like people would cut off a limb to get this role, right? But I also used to say, is this all there is? And then I would stay because I was just never sure. I just wasn't sure, except I knew there had to be more for me. And for me, that looked like bigger impact, more purpose-driven work, more flexibility and control over what I was doing, more of a sense that there was an alignment between my path in life, like the mark I wanted to make on the world, and what I was doing day in and day out. But I was stuck in a Goldilocks job. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. I coined this term because I was trying to come up with a name for what does it mean when the job is probably too hot in some places and too cold in others, right? And it's just not just right anywhere. There's some things about it that it has too much of, some things about it that it has not enough of. So I want to do 3 things for you today. I want to define a Goldilocks job. I want to talk about how you know if you're in one. And I want to share some ideas about what you can do if you are, so that we can get you to the other side of this. Okay. So first, what is a Goldilocks job? It's what I just started to say, right? It's kind of too hot in some places and too cold in others. Typically, I'll tell you the most common way that people will describe this to me is it's pretty good in terms of the salary, the benefits, the security, right? The perks, maybe the prestige. That stuff's pretty good. What's not so good is usually the actual work itself, like what you're doing day in and day out, the tasks that are showing up on your to-do list, the meetings that are showing up on your calendar. Like that's the part that people will say, this part's just not very good. Okay, so tell me if that makes sense to you. Put hashtag relatable in the chat if you hear me on this. If you're like, yeah, I get it. Like, it's just, I'm not really contributing in a way that I feel great about or excited about. Maybe it's because of what the company does. Like, what's the purpose of the company, or what is the business that the company itself is in? Or maybe it's what's your particular role inside of that company or organization. Right? Either one of those can be kind of off kilter. So I want to hear you in the chat if you start to recognize like, oh yeah, okay, I get this. It's got some pieces of this overall job that are keeping me here, right? Often benefits, income, security, perks, location is one that I'll hear in this. But then on the other side of it is, I just don't know if it's really what I'm meant to do, right? They're not really truly exciting or purpose-driven. Okay, I'm seeing all those relatables coming in. So that's my definition of what is a Goldilocks job. It's like I'm kind of stuck here because I can't come up with a good enough reason to do something else, or it seems scary to even pursue that, or I'm not sure it gets any better than this. But I'm kind of sad that this is as good as it gets. Okay, that's the headspace we're in. So how do you know if you're in one? How do you know if for sure, if like this is the situation that you're finding yourself in? Okay, here's the first clue. If you have ever been in a conversation about your work and you heard yourself say the words, but I'm making so much money, right? Then you're definitely in a Goldilocks job. Because the number one thing I hear people say is like, I just can't leave because of the income. I can't leave because I'm making so much money. Or, I don't really love it, but I have a good salary, right? I have a steady income. Maybe not even so much money, but the concept of like, it's a steady income. That one alone is like, check the box, definitively you're in a Goldilocks job. If you're only staying for the money and you can't come up with another reason, Goldilocks, okay? It's the word but. That's the piece of it that is the key. And because it might not be money. It's, I don't really love what I'm doing. And then there's this little pause, but, right? But I have a lot of flexibility. They let me take my kids to the doctor when they need to go or pick them up from school in the afternoon, right? But I have great benefits. Like this company or this organization has great benefits. And I don't want to leave those. I don't really love what I'm doing, but I worked so hard to get here. I worked so hard to get to this place. I put in the hours for my education, maybe for an advanced degree, maybe to slog it out through promotion after promotion, or maybe you're getting closer to retirement and there's a lot of perks connected to that. So I worked so hard to get here is something that I'll hear the but. Another one is, I don't really love it, but other people would kill for this job. I have a sense that this is a desirable job, that people want this job. And so who am I to leave it if so many people would want it? That's one I hear a lot. And then another one is, but this is what I went to school for. So we've worked with doctors and attorneys and veterinarians inside of Brilliant Balance. And this is a big deal when there's a very specialized education and you've spent a decade, getting the certifications and the education necessary. I went to school for this. I invested so much to get here. So then what typically happens is there's this long sigh of resignation. And it's like, so I can't leave, right? So I can't leave. The but is the killer. So if you're in a job where there is a but keeping you there, drop your but in the chat. That's funny when I said it that way. Tell me in the chat what you hear yourself saying but about. Maybe that's a better way to say it. So you have something about the job that you're like, but blah, 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 blah. Okay. What is that? What's your but? Put it in the chat. And this is important because it's going to lead us to the next little section of this. I want to watch for these buts coming into the chat. So tell me in the chat, what is the but you find yourself saying the most often? Okay. This is a good one. But is it too late? Right? I don't love this work, but is it too late to make a real change? That's one I did not mention. And that is a good one, right? Like, is it too far gone? Am I not in a position anymore to really make a meaningful change? I'm going to watch for some more to come in. Okay. I want you to really challenge yourself to know what is the but that you say the most frequently. What's the one, even if you're only saying it to yourself, right? Even if that's the only place that you say it, I want you to think about it, because that is the phrase that's like wrapping you up in a spider web and keeping you where you are, right? That's the courage drainer. That's the one that's saying like, oh, I just don't know, right? It's going to drain my courage. Okay. So here's another one, but I don't know what else I do to make this much money and have these benefits. See, that's it. That's that definition of a Goldilocks job, right? I'm doing it for the money and the benefits. I just don't know if there's another option that's going to allow me to keep that. I don't know if I can have my cake and eat it too. Okay. Keep these coming and I'm going to move on, because what I want you to remember is that you are not a hostage. Right? You are not a hostage. You can type that in the chat. I am not a hostage, right? I am not a hostage. The truth is, you absolutely 100% for sure, no doubt about it, you can leave. If you are in work that is just draining your energy out your toes, you don't like it, you don't think this is it, but you're choosing not to. And I want you to own that choice today, right? Maybe you don't like the consequences that leaving would bring. Maybe you're scared about what would happen. Normal, right? Maybe you're just a little too comfortable where you are. Normal. But telling yourself that you can't leave, it's not only untrue, it's actually psychologically dangerous. It's psychologically dangerous because it takes you out of agency. Agency mindset is the perspective that you have a sense of control over your life, right? Over your day-to-day life, over the direction you're taking your life. That's what agency is. Contrast that with victim mindset, which says, I have no control, right? So when I'm saying you're not a hostage, you could substitute you're not a victim. Like, there is nobody saying you absolutely cannot leave except you. So we want to kind of root around in here a little bit. We want to get inside what's really happening in your brain that is telling you, I can't leave, right? That's telling you I can't leave, because what it is it's like a quick exit hatch. Our brain goes, but I can't leave. So guess what? I don't have to think about that, right? I don't have to spend any time thinking about that. And then we can move back to Netflix, and we can move back to Instagram, and we can move back to whatever it is that's not actually taking our life in the direction we want it to go. It's this sense that you don't have any control, but you do. So when you hear yourself rationalizing why you're staying in a job that you don't like, don't let out that deep sigh of resignation and just kind of like move on, right? Instead, I want you to tune in to what you're really saying. So listen, if you always say, but I make a lot of money, what that tells you is that you enjoy making a lot of money, right? Or maybe you need to make a lot of money for your lifestyle or for some financial responsibilities that you have. Great. Maybe you can go look at one of the 4 million other jobs that pay a lot of money, right? Until you find one that you would really love doing. Hi, it's Cherylanne. Thanks for listening. Did you know that the ideas I share on this show are things I also can help you implement? If you want me in your corner helping you find more time for what fills you up, go to brilliant-balance.com/schedule and sign up for a free exploratory call. Give yourself this time. You'll be so glad you did. If you always say, but I have a ton of flexibility in this job, then congratulations, right? You've just learned that flexibility matters to you. And that's what you want to protect for in your next role. So when we have the but, what we're really doing is like putting in bold and underlining the next part of the sentence is something that's really important to me. So absolutely protect for that in any chess move that you're going to make. Okay? So think about it. I want you to go back in your mind to what did you say was your but, and drop in the chat what you've just learned is really important to you in your work. It could be compensation, it could be flexibility, it could be location, it could be whatever. But I want you to tell me, let's view that but not as a trap. Let's view the but as what is the thing that we know we have to protect for no matter what in any role that we take. Okay? That's so critical. The number one thing I hear here is money. I mean, I'll just tell you from doing this work with hundreds of people, that's the number one thing. And somehow we all have this belief that we are in the only job that makes this much money. Like, this is it. This is the only job I'm ever going to get that makes this much money. And we shut down other options like as like a safety mechanism. Okay. So what we're learning, I love Rachel. I like having my summers off, right? So she's like, but I have my summers off. That was the first statement. And now it's, I like having my summers off, right? I like having flexibility and retirement savings. It's important to me to have benefits and good pay and flexibility as I'm watching these come in. So these are the things that we're declaring are important. Where we're trying to get freedom is, are you in the one and only job that has those things? Look at how many of you are saying that you value benefits and pay and flexibility because you already have it and you're not all sitting in the same job. So it's out there in other roles. Okay, that's what we're trying to wrap our head around. So there's a big set of options that we might be a little too laser focused on one. So most often when we tell ourselves, but I can't leave, we just haven't thought it all the way through. And we're making some assumptions, some of which may be true. Okay, but most of them are not true. Like somebody mentioned in the chat, stock options. You're going to lose stock options if you leave. I lost stock options when I left my job. That's not fun, right? It's not fun to say, well, that's income that I would have if I stayed, but I'm not going to have it if I leave and I have to go replace it in some other way. That's not the most fun thing to happen, but it's survivable. And there are other ways to replace that compensation. It's easier to say I can't leave than it is to say I'm choosing not to. It's easier to say I can't leave than it is to say I'm choosing not to, right? Because it's somebody else's fault when we say I can't, and we're taking responsibility when we say I choose not to. But staying in a job that you don't love is a choice. It's a choice. And if you're going to make that choice, then we want to call it what it is. We want to say, I'm choosing to stay in a job I don't love because I've declared something else is more important to me, right? We want you to get clear about what you really want and what you're willing to do to get it. And then you can get out there and start to explore some options, okay? Because there are options. And it's so fun when you start trying a few on for size. Right? Having some conversations with people about what other kinds of roles are out there, really getting underneath to understand, what do you love to do? What are the skills that you want to use? So I'm curious for this group who's been focused on what we're attached to in our current role and what we want to make sure we replace. Now I want to know, what else do you want to get? So if you could go to that next level and say, I'm keeping all the good things about my current role, keeping the compensation and the flexibility and the location, whatever it is, and I'm going to get the next thing. What's that next thing? What are we trying to add to the mix of stuff that this job is providing to you that you're not getting today? Tell me that in the chat. What are we looking for, right? What are we trying to add? Examples would be things like, I want it to be more creative. I think I saw that in somebody's role. I want to feel like I'm growing, right? I want to be like in a place where I'm learning new things. Somebody might say, I actually want higher compensation, right? It's like, well, actually, that's not the best thing about this job, and I want to sort for higher compensation. It might be, I want the work to have meaning. Yeah, I just see that for Heidi. I want the work to have purpose. I want the work to have meaning. I want to have fulfillment. I want it to be connected to my passion, Kristen's saying, right? Corinne's saying personal growth. I want to feel like my work is valuable. Those things are like, they come from deep inside of us, right? And we get to define exactly what that means to us. And honestly, does it not sometimes feel a little overwhelming? Like that's where it starts to feel like, well, of course I want that, but I don't know how to get there. I don't know what to do. So if as you type these in, you're like, well, that'd be great, Cherylanne, but it's totally overwhelming. Put hashtag overwhelming, right? Hashtag overwhelming in the chat, because this is that inflection point. This is where so many of us say like, yeah, I think I know what I want, but it's totally overwhelming to think about how I would make that my reality. So you know what? Back to Bridgerton. This is easy, right? This is where I'm going to go hide out instead of really pushing through this work to understand what would I have to be doing to get to the next level. Okay. So if that whole thing starts to sound like hashtag overwhelming, tell me that in the chat. Because I think that really is what happens is we get to that point and we're like, I can't figure this out. I can't figure this out on my own. It's too hard. It's too big. It's too complex. And I just, honestly, I don't have time to sift through all the inputs. So I just like throw my hands up in the air and I walk away. I will tell you that when you get into the cadence of starting to explore, right? When you get into this mindset of, okay, instead of just buckling down and like, I'm just going to tough it out and stay in this career forever. When you make that shift instead and say, I'm going to push through this. I'm going to start exploring some things. I'm going to start looking at what's out there. You eventually find one that's just right. And when you do, it's brilliant, right? It's brilliant. But getting there isn't always easy. So what I want to offer you is some hands-on support from me and from my team, okay? One of the top reasons that women come into our coaching programs is to pivot their career. You might not know that, but that is one of the number one thing that we work with our clients on is how do you pivot your career? So if that's on the horizon for you, if you're feeling that like stirring from the conversation today, then I want you to join us in coaching. I want you to think about coaching as a pathway for you to find a couple things that are going to make this easier. One is clarity. Clarity about what it is you really want. If you feel like it's a little fuzzy, you're like, I want it to have meaning, but what is that really? I don't even, passion, but what am I passionate about? If that's the place you're in, you've got to find clarity. It's got to be like, this is the thing I'm going after. Right? And that doesn't always just come to the surface. Sometimes we got to reach in and pull that out of you and give you some language about what that really means. And then once you have clarity, you need the courage to go after it, right? You need a plan that you can execute. So clarity, courage, and a plan of how am I really going to go after this? Those are the things that you need. And I'm going to tell you that it's really important that you have a conversation about your specific situation, right? If you've realized today that you're really sick of settling for something less than what you really want, right? If you're sick of talking about how there has to be more, and you know that you need that big dose of courage and you need some extra accountability to really make it work, then coaching with us might be a pathway for you. So I'm going to talk you through what that looks like. And then I'm going to give you an opportunity to have a conversation directly with me so that you can share all the details of like your specific situation with me. And I can help you decide, is there a pathway here forward for you? Okay. We have a number of different ways we can do this. We have a number of different options. I love hearing your specific story so I can help you decide. So we're going to tell you what that looks like. But I want to make sure that you really think about a few things. One is typically you need to have a level of content available to you. You have to have like something
thing to grab onto that tells you what you need to do. You need to have coaching so that you understand how to do it, right? It's not enough to just be like, well, this is what I need to do. You need the back and forth dialogue. You need somebody who can get underneath, where are you stuck? What are the stories you keep telling yourself that keep you feeling afraid and keep you playing small, right? And then typically it's valuable to be in community with other people who are trying to solve the same problems, other people who are doing what you want to do, right? They're already on the path. And then that starts to show you that it's actually possible. So we piece all those together, and I can do that in a very custom way for you that's exactly right for you so that you can have like the training or the content that you need. You can ask yourself the right questions. Coaching, which is it's such a gift to be able to have someone listen to you and play back what they're hearing, right? In a way that it's like looking at your problem from a different angle of the prism. That whenever I've had coaching, what I value the most is that they're not in my story, right? The person who's coaching me is not in my story. They're outside my story and they're able to see it with fresh eyes. And then they play back like some simple sentence out of this whole bleh. I've given them a whole verbal vomit and they come back with this really elegant single sentence or a couple of sentences. And I'm like, that's it. That's the thing that's been keeping me stuck. That's the value of that outside perspective, right? And we see that all the time in our coaching experiences because I get to be the person helping with that aha moment, which is why I love what I get to do. Okay. So what you're going to do if you sit here today saying, I think I'm done talking about this. I think I'm done lamenting that I'm stuck in a job I don't like. And I actually want to navigate to a new place, then I want you to schedule time with me. So Haley on my team is going to drop into the chat a booking link. This goes directly to my calendar. So I'm a little bit like, what's going to happen when we drop this in front of you? It's a booking link straight to my calendar. It is for a 45-minute call. Okay. I think I opened up 7 spots in the next couple of days. If they run out, you can tell me. Like you can just DM me or something and we'll figure out how to get you taken care of. But there are 7 spots, I think, open Friday and Saturday to talk to people directly from this workshop and hear your story. And I want you to walk me through, here's my situation. Here's what my education was. Here's the role I'm in now. This is my family situation. This is any other extenuating circumstances that are making me feel like I don't have options. I want you to tell me what those things are. And then I am going to help you design the right next step, right? I'll talk to you about how you can work with the content that we have and the coaching staff we have to get to the outcome that you really want. There are a couple of probably lead options that I think will work here. So there are small size solutions and bigger solutions available. And that's why I want to have the conversation because I don't know what's right for you. I don't know your financial situation. I don't know how much help you're going to need or want for any of you. So I really want to understand like the story before I tell you what the recommendation is. And it's also going to be important to know, are you just trying to execute a career move? Like you're right there, you're on the precipice. You just need to kind of get your assets together and get a little bit more clarity and go. Or are you like, I kind of have to figure out how this career piece fits into my whole life. And I really need to kind of get my life in order. And I know that my work is a piece of that. So I'll be able to sort that out during the call. And then we'll be able to decide what are the options that we have available to look at. Okay. Some of you, I suspect, will need to kind of the get your whole life in order part, right? Because we're really expert at that, at helping women say like, what does my life look like today across all aspects? My work, my family, my health and well-being, my financial situation, like all of it. And then where do I really want to go? And how do I build a plan to get there? That's something that we do on the regular. And I think it's a core part of our expertise. Some of you are going to be in that smaller solution, which is like, I really just want to execute this move. I feel like I'm right on the edge. I'm a little scared. I need to like get my LinkedIn profile together. I need to figure out my story of how I can position myself. but this is going to snap into the rest of my life is going to stay kind of the way it is. And so I need to understand that in these conversations. I love having those conversations with you, right? But I'll tell you, in essence, what will happen probably no matter what is we would be working together for several months, 3, 4, 6, something like that. We would have content for you so that there's something to grab onto, right? It's not just going to be conversations back and forth. There'd be some kind of content model to grab onto. Coaching could be one-on-one, could be group with options there. But for sure, we'll get you into community with other incredible women, right? Who are on a similar pathway so you can learn from one another. So if you are intrigued at all by the idea of coaching to get yourself through this chapter, to be like, I don't want to stay in this Goldilocks job, but I'm not sure what to do about it. If you're intrigued at all by the idea of coaching with us, then grab a spot on my calendar, which is at that link. What's going to happen then, as soon as you find a time and say, yep, confirmed. And by the way, please check your time zones. So when you do that, then it's going to give you a short background form and ask you to answer, I don't remember how many questions, but like not a lot. It shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes or so to go through this background form, which gives me a little bit of information about you before we get on the phone. And then we'll talk. So it'll be a phone conversation, not video. We'll just chat by phone. And at that point, then we'll be able to decide together what really is right for you. You know, I remember talking to Reagan. Reagan was an attorney longing to leave and be a coach. She had worked on a certification. She was like, I really want to leave and be a coach, but I'm trapped, right? I'm trapped by the money. I'm trapped by the prestige. I'm trapped because I have the daily grind of raising 3 children and I just can't. Like, I can't figure out how to get out of this. And she has her coaching practice up and running today. You know, she's easing herself out of her firm so she can do it full time. She's doing it while raising 3 children in a pandemic, but she is in the game, right? Because she made the decision to say, I'm going to put some support around this and see, like, get this going. Okay. So there are so many of these stories that I could tell of women, honestly, who are probably just like you, who just weren't sure that they could find a better way until they did, right? And it doesn't just happen. It requires a proven process and an accountability system and like a big dose of courage, but we are ready to help. I'm personally ready to help. My team's ready to help. And it's the most fun that we get to have is supporting you through these kind of changes. So you're going to get on my calendar. We're going to have a chat. And then we're going to get you on a path toward the work that you're truly meant to do.
Okay. I hope you got something really good out of that. I hope that it was a provocative way of thinking about a role that you might be in that maybe you felt stuck in. Maybe you felt like, I don't really think there's anything I can do about this. I think I'm just going to have to tough it out and stay in this role because there's so many elements about it that are important for me or important for my family. And I just can't see my way to a better way. But I am here to tell you that many, many, many times I have been able to help women prepare for or transition to a better place professionally. And so if you are so inclined, if you want to have that conversation with me, I want to give you the URL. It is brilliant-balance.com. So our website, that's the home, /schedule. Right? Really fancy there, /schedule. Also, when you go to the homepage of the site, if you just Google Brilliant Balance, you'll get there. There is a button on the homepage that says talk to a coach. And that button would get you to the same booking page where you can schedule time. So I would welcome the opportunity to do that with you. I know that what I referenced in the class, again, was something that I was offering up a few years ago. But as this episode is airing, I am happy to continue to have those conversations with women who maybe are listeners of the podcast and have never had the opportunity to be in two-way dialogue with me. So if you are interested in exploring how coaching can help you make that next step, this is your invitation to do just that. That is all for today, my friends. Until next time, let's be brilliant.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.
you.